President Trump, during that debate, talked about children that are aborted way in the 8th and 9th month, and then some even after, and mentioned that. To which the ABC News moderator, Lindsay Davis, responded, "There is no state in the country where it's legal to kill a baby after it's born," and then immediately turned to Vice President Harris.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Where literally she jumped in to be able to debate the president and to try to quote unquote correct him. The problem is there was no one to be able to moderate her in that debate and make the simple statement, there are not only states in America where that can happen, there are states in America where that does happen. In this,
That shouldn't happen in any state in America. Keep watching.
simple map of the United States, this lists out the states where there are strong protections for a child after birth. Now, this is not an abortion. This is a botched abortion that has occurred. This is a woman went in with the intent of having an abortion, late term. The child was fully delivered. And in medical practice, in many of these states that are listed here, the child is fully delivered during the abortion. And if the child cries, breathes, the practice is to back away and to allow the child to slowly die on the table.
That's amazing. That's sickening. That's murder.
Because the intent was an abortion. And so everyone just steps back in the facility and watches the child die on the table, however long that takes. Now, before people say that doesn't occur, 8 states have a requirement that in an abortion, if it's botched and the child's actually fully delivered and they're still alive, they have to report it. And in 8 states, only those 8 that actually do that, there were 277 cases of that. Let me give you an example. This was several years ago. She's now a beautiful young woman now. A young woman named Melissa Ohden, she actually didn't know until she was an adult that she was actually the product of a botched abortion.
Figure out her case in a minute.
Her mom had been compelled to have an abortion, was a teenager, had been compelled to have an abortion by some family members around her. She didn't want to do it, but she did. It was a late-term abortion. She went in to have the abortion, had the abortion, and after the abortion was over, one of the nurses, looking through the quote-unquote medical waste that was there on the table, saw the young girl crying.
Thank God for the
She
nurse.
scooped up the infant, took the infant on her own to an emergency room. The emergency room said, there's no way she'll have a full, meaningful life. But they took care of her because she's in the emergency room. And I know Melissa Ohden. She's a remarkable lady.
I should have been delivered dead, and instead I was actually born alive.
Thank you, Lord.
My 19-year-old birth mother, as a college student, had a saline infusion abortion, and that type of procedure was meant to poison me to death. Ultimately, a nurse rushed me off to the neonatal intensive care unit where medical care ultimately sustained my life.
Glad she made it. Look at
My
this.
birth mother had spent over 30 years of her life believing that I had died that day at the hospital. She was not told that I survived. It was kept a secret from her. I was placed for adoption without her ever knowing. She never knew if it was a little boy or a little girl she had delivered in that abortion. She had lived with such incredible regret and heartache. And so we started to communicate by email about 5 years ago, and shared information, built walls of trust and love with one another before we met face to face for the first time about 2 years ago now. I will never forget meeting her and seeing her pain. Her pain haunted me for a very long time after that. But now I get to also experience her joy.
Rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
26 states allow abortion in the 24th week or later. 26 states allow abortion in the 24th week or later. Amazing. And you heard what was said, right? But check this out.
I'm looking to have an abortion.
How far along are you?
I'm 34 right now.
An abortion at any stage is actually much safer than delivering a term pregnancy. It's a 4 to 5 day procedure. The needle is inserted through the abdomen and into the fetal heart where lidocaine is injected, and that will completely numb the fetus so there's no pain. And then after that, we inject a medication called digoxin and another medication called KCL into the fetal heart, which will slow and then stop the fetal heartbeat. And then we'll assist you in sort of pushing in the induction and then remove all of the products of conception. We specialize in later trimester care. Our doctor is very well versed in what he's doing and he's very good.
So I'm not like a rare situation. Y'all help women this late in pregnancy all the time?
All the time.
Rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting.
Kill a baby after it's born.
I rise today in strong support of H.R. 26, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. And this bill does exactly what the title says, which in this town is a novel concept. Today, we are not talking about abortion. We are talking about children. We are talking about children who have been born and are fighting to survive despite an abortion attempt. In some cases, when a woman receives a late-term abortion, the baby can be born alive following the procedure. Federal law currently recognizes these babies as persons, but fails to outline any requirements of care after the infant is born alive. H.R. 26 would rectify this by requiring healthcare practitioners to treat any child born alive after an abortion as they would any infant, and requires that the infant be immediately treated with life-saving care and transported to a hospital. I honestly do not understand what is so controversial about that. This bill establishes criminal penalties for any healthcare practitioner or abortion clinic employee who fails to comply with the requirements established by this bill, because let's face it, no one can deny that a child who survives an abortion attempt, who is outside the womb, breathing and struggling for life despite all attempts to end it, doesn't deserve equal protection under the law. And under our law, murder is illegal.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
8 babies in Florida alone, just last year, 8 babies were reported to have been born alive during an abortion attempt. The stories are horrific. One that sticks out in particular, an NBC report in 2006. They told the story of a 23-week-old baby boy that was born alive at an abortion clinic in Hialeah, Florida. When he began breathing and moving, the abortion clinic owner, Belkis Gonzalez, reportedly cut the umbilical cord and zipped him into a biohazard bag, where he then died.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
One night, a nursing coworker was taking a little abortion survivor to the soiled utility room to die because she didn't have time to hold him and his parents didn't want anything to do with him. And so when she told me what she was doing, I couldn't let this baby die alone, and so I cradled and rocked him for the 45 minutes that he lived. He was about the size of my hand, and if you saw the State of the Union address with a little Ellie, a 2-year-old who'd been born at 21 weeks, 6 days, the baby I held was just 2 days younger than her. I couldn't tell toward the end of his life if he was still alive unless I held him up against the light to see if I could see his heart beating through his chest wall, because their skin is so thin at that age. And after he was pronounced dead, I folded his little arms across his chest, tied them together with a little string, wrapped him in a shroud, and took him to the morgue where we took all of our dead patients.
These are babies. These are human beings. Human beings. Watch this. Pay close attention. You see this? I hope y'all paying close attention. These are the senators that voted against the Born Alive protection.
Abortion can never, on its face, be safe because in order for an abortion to be deemed successful, an individual and unique human being with a beating heart must die. That can never be safe for that individual human life.
Let's see what J.D. Vance and Tim Walz has to say about this issue.
Says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this
is just crazy to me.
This is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But
this,
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business.
Why not mind your business when it comes to the child that's growing inside the woman?
On this, things work best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
I want to clarify what the law is there in Minnesota. Abortion Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally?
It's a bill that you signed. So let's see what his response is.
Look, the vice president and I have been clear. The restoration of Roe versus Wade is what we're asking for.
But that
this
law
is a
goes
woman's
far beyond
right
Roe v. Wade.
to make her own choice. The law is very clear. It does not change that. That was been debunked on every occasion.
But
look, this is a.
Let's agree. What you signed is there's not a single limit through 9 months of pregnancy. Roe had a trimester framework that did have limits through the pregnancy. The Minnesota law does not have that.
This puts the decision with the woman and her healthcare providers. The situation we have is when you don't have the ability of healthcare providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda Zaworski in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply something to be brought up to be very clear. Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait, he has said that he has said repeatedly that he will not sign a national abortion ban. Are you calling that just, it's a flat out lie?
I'll show you what Trump's response is to this a little bit later, what his stance is. I'll show you that a little bit later. But let's keep watching.
Yes, of course. And Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now look, they may see this as an election issue. We see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. So let's be very clear. Trying to cut hairs on an issue on this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, her family has, and it's tragic, she is a young mother who left behind a young son. But what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received, and she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney, says it wasn't the Georgia law, it was the hospitals. What he claims is malpractice, not treating her when she clearly showed up in distress and still had the byproducts of her pregnancy because of that rare complication from the abortion pill. So just to be clear on the Georgia law and how her family and her attorney sees it.
Let's see what President Trump has to say about this issue.
Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith. Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. Do what's right for our country and vote. So important to vote. This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something. Now it's up to the states to do the right thing. Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. You must follow your heart on this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently and very sadly a nation in decline. Our nation needs help. It needs unity. It needs us all to work closely together. Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, everyone, we have to work together.
The choice is yours, people. You get to decide. It's your choice. Now, I don't know if I can say it any better than Vince Edward Ellison. I just like the way he says what he says. So this is not about him. I just like the way he words, and I can't say it the way that this guy says what I want to say.
So every man, if you got a little bit of testosterone in you, a little bit of manhood in you, you're supposed to be done with this party now. And all of y'all that vote for it after this, yeah. Put your panties and your bras on. Put on your roots. Go get your hormone pills. You've told me who you are. And you told it to the world. With that, go to my election day. It's 2 weeks away. And just in case you sleep, I am here to wake you up.
And I get tickled every time he says that. I just like the way this guy says that. Here to wake us up. Listen here, people. You have a choice. Wake up. Pay attention to what's really going on. The choice is yours. You get to choose whatever you want to do. I'll see you on the next one.